Hey everybody, here is the short version of the live stream that happened just earlier today. The live streams happen the first Sunday of every month at 10 or 11 o'clock Pacific time. And let's go have fun. Basically, if this is the first time joining us here, basically how this works is that we have a topic of the day that I talk about first, and I give you my 2 cents on. It could be a theory, it could be anything, and then I will turn to you guys and get your guys' opinion on that topic of the day. And then we kind of do a Q&A, hang out, have fun, talk about anything and anything Stargate. So today's topic comes from a subscriber. Let me actually get my glasses on so I can read it here. Alex Theorem. He asked, what changes would you make to the franchise from tech to anything really? So, Alex, this is a question that I get quite a lot, being a figure in the Stargate community, and this is one that I would absolutely love to talk about today. So, looking over in the chat, I think it's, yeah, if I look that way, it looks like I'm looking at the chat bar. Lawrence, hey, how you doing? Aloha, Lawrence. I assume you're in Hawaii. I was there a couple of months ago. Loved it. Matt Dean, change what they can. We'll get to that, Matt. We'll get to that. Little, hello. Silent Killer. Hey, man, how you doing? Yo, man, you good? I am good. I'm good. Marchin, howdy. Good to see you guys. Couple of familiar faces. Mr. Bojangles. Good to see you again. So let's get to the topic of the day. And just to warn you, I do have a couple of dogs with me. I got the Stargate dog who's lying on the bed and just knocked the table, as well as Buddy, one of my in-laws' dogs, who is looking at the door. But anyway, so let's get going here to the topic of the day. What would I change in Stargate? So, and Buddy, do you want out? Okay, excuse me 1 second. Moose, do you want to go? Okay, that's a yes. Alrighty. Sorry about that. The wonders of being a dog owner. So, what would I change about the franchise? So, there are several things that I would have liked to change if I was the or an executive producer of the show, or a writer on the show. The big thing that I think everyone kind of has an issue with are Zats. Zats, I like them as a weapon. The ability to cause extreme pain to your enemy and then be able to kill your enemy. I like that. It's the 3-shot thing that pisses everybody off, right? The whole, 1-shot stun, 2-shot kill, 3 shots disintegrates. I don't like that. I think that was a impulsive decision and one that could have really come in handy as time went on, but it gave the Zat way too much power. Being able to disintegrate anything, as we see in 1969, Jack used it to disintegrate a couple of crates with stuff in it. So you could disintegrate anything. I mean, how powerful are these things are we talking about here? Like, if I pointed at a mothership wall, could I shoot it 3 times and the wall disintegrates? It's a lot of power to give one gun, and it's one that fortunately they kind of went away from as time went on. But just the 3-shot rule really pisses me off. It's annoying. It's just annoying. Another thing that I would have changed about the franchise, and this is kind of a great thing to do at the end of the year, as we're ending 2019, kind of looking back. Next month we're going to talk about what's going on with Stargate in the future. But so looking back at the Stargate franchise, another thing that I would change is I would have a different kinds of Jaffa weaponry. They have the staff weapons, and they have the Zats, they have some knives, and they have the big staff cannons. And that's it. For Goa'uld, who have been fighting each other with the same warriors with the same weapons for thousands of years, it seems a little ridiculous about not having more weapons. And I know they have the TACs, the kind of automated ball weapons. You only see those like once. And they have the stun grenades. You only see those like 2 or 3 times. But just having a weapon that would kill, that is not a giant staff weapon, one shot, one kill. I would have liked to change something there. Another thing with the Jaffa that I would have changed, since we're on the subject, at the very beginning of Stargate SG-1, the Jaffa were hard to kill. Their armor would make most bullets bounce off. You have to like unload half of a clip in order to, or rather a magazine, okay? Unload half of a magazine in order to kill a Jaffa, which made them a very imposing enemy. Now, if you fast forward a couple of years, the same weapons, you know, one or two shots, the Jaffa goes down. That consistency, and the same thing happens with the Wraith. And with the Wraith, they kind of finagled canon in order to make it work. But like with the Jaffa, if you are going to have an enemy be hard to kill, always make it hard to kill them unless you change up the weaponry and you increase the power of the weaponry to take down that enemy. But that consistency was not there all the time. And I would have really liked that consistency to have been there. It's a small thing. It's not a big story thing. But there are scenes where like 100 Jaffa pour over a hill and a dozen SG team members just take them out, just, and they're dead, you know, and then we're, you know, walking over a bunch of dead bodies. But, you know, also with the Wraith, you saw that in Stargate Atlantis. They made the Wraith as these really powerful enemies. You know, you can unload a full magazine into them and they still wouldn't go down. But they, as time went on, they kind of finagled that into, if a Wraith has just fed, then they're harder to take down. The longer they go without feeding, the easier they are to kill. And that makes sense to me. If you don't eat for a long time, you're a lot weaker. And so having that kind of logic put onto the Wraith makes sense. But with the Jaffa, they wear the exact same armor. It's just a different color, you know, and it doesn't make sense. What did they do? Did they suddenly, instead of like titanium or something, they went with aluminum? There's really no explanation at all. But in Atlantis there is. Oh, I would keep that with the Wraith. But with the Jaffa, it just doesn't make sense, you know? Another thing, man, I keep bumping the camera. Sorry about that. Another thing that I would change is, man, there's a bunch of, it's a bunch of little stuff, you know? It's not like a whole, like big storylines and stuff I get, you know? I really like the stories of Stargate. There's a lot of really good stuff in the Stargate franchise. The ability to walk through a portal and go anywhere in the universe is an amazing storytelling device, and you can walk through the gate and you can find whatever you want on the other end. As a writer, it's a really freeing device. As a sci-fi show, it's a really cool show, especially since it takes place in the here and now. But one of the things that I would change, although it makes a lot of sense, we see a lot of the politics that goes on with Stargate, a lot of American politics, a lot of international politics with the creation of the IOA. Although that does make the story more real, one of the things that I would change is I would bring that in a little sooner than it did. And it's kind of hard to explain. But the politics that happen in Stargate makes the show real. Because politics are in real life, and you can bet your butt that if there's a secret organization in any government, there will be politics to help manipulate that secret society or group or whatever. So it makes sense. And really the first mention of politics that we get is right before this season 1 ending. And I guess that's a good place to bring it up. I just would have hinted at it a little sooner about Kenzie, about congressional oversight. They do mention the president, but that's a big step between Hammond, a 1-star general, or a 2-star general, and going up to the president. That's a bit of a jump, okay? So that's just a little thing, and it's just little things, really. In Stargate Atlantis, one of the things that I would have changed is I would have introduced the Stargate. I would have introduced the Pegasus Galaxy, Asgard, the Veneer sooner. and I would have loved to see them play a little bit more of a role, even like an advisory role. We just had them in like a one-off episode, but I would have loved to see them in a little advisory role, kind of like how kind of like how the Asgard were with the Tari in the Milky Way galaxy, but in the Pegasus galaxy. I would have loved to know more about their culture. I would have loved to just have a little bit more involvement there because they had a very different mentality than the rest of the Asgard, and they would have been really fun to play with. The one of the things that bugs me is Apophis, and I love Peter, who plays Apophis. Great guy. He taught me a lot about the Apophis meteor that could end all of mankind. That is coming in a couple of years, but I would have killed his character off a lot sooner. He just kept coming back, and for a Goa'uld who actually wasn't all that powerful, I mean, he had 2 Hatak motherships full of soldiers, and that was the majority of his strength at that time. Compared to, like, you, who had a couple of dozen of those suckers, you know, Apophis wasn't really a big player, but they kept bringing him back like a cockroach, you know? You kill him off, you think he's dead, then he comes back. You kill him off, you think he's dead, and then he comes back. Finally, he's on a ship with the replicators that smashes into a planet, and he's finally freaking dead. You know, seasons later. That is one thing that I would have changed. I would have killed off the character and left him stay dead at least a season before he actually did. That is another, you know, storytelling thing, but, you know, I think that would have really made the way for Anubis to really come back. You could have had more time with Ball, and I know that's something that they thought about years later. But yeah, I mean, you have all sorts of different Goa'uld system lords, and you keep bringing back the same one like a cockroach. That bugged me a little bit, and it just got repetitive. And like, if you binge watch the show, and I know when it came out, binge watching wasn't a thing, but if you binge watch the show, it's like every season the guy comes back. Every season we got to kill him. It's the same enemy, right? And the Jaffa is the same enemy. They kept the Goa'uld basically the same for 8 seasons. And then they introduced the Priors and the Ori as like a whole nother little show, you know, season 9 and 10. So that is something that I would have changed up. I would have changed up the Jaffa. And I know they kind of did that with the Coal Warriors. And in fact, there's going to be a racial profile on them coming out in a couple weeks. But I don't know. It seems like a new threat comes into the galaxy. You have the replicators going on. You have the Tauri going on. And they're causing issues. As the Goa'uld, even though they have been entrenched in the same way of fighting each other for thousands of years, you have new enemies. And just that they did not change their tactics, they did not change their weaponry, they didn't really change anything for 8 years during this time period where you have new threats and you're seeing, you know, system lords being bumped off. You know, Ra goes, Apophis goes, this guy goes, and they don't really change much. That always kind of bothered me. Ball was the most one that really changed and adapted, and he's the one that became the biggest threat because he did that. But the fact that he was the only one is weird. You know, even, of course, he was blended with Jacob. But in the Tok'ra, who are, you know, unchanging for thousands of years, even Selmac, just blending with Carter, Jacob Carter, and then when Ball is fighting the replicators, he's like, well, he's battling him like a Goa'uld system lord against another Goa'uld system lord, you know, protecting territory above all else, and you got to change up your strategy, and we need to propose a different strategy for Ball to take. I mean, if that snakehead could figure out that you need to change things up when you fight a different opponent, why couldn't all these other system lords? I don't know. That always kind of bugged me a little bit. And I know there's logical explanations for a lot of this stuff during the creation of the show. And they did not have all 10 seasons of the show mapped out way ahead of time. They did have like the first 4, basically, because they got signed on for 2 of SG-1, and then by the end of season 1, they got signed up for another 2 So they had 4 seasons to really map out and plan with, and that's where you see a lot of Apophis. So I kind of get that, but it's some of the little things that annoy me a little bit. The replicators are a little irksome. I don't want to tell you too much during this live stream because next week we are getting a Replicators Are Idiots episode. So I will refer you to that video that is coming out next week. The replicators just consuming stuff and never using technology. That's one thing that really gets me. They always seek out the most advanced technology, but they don't actually use it. They consume it and they use the materials to build more bugs, but they don't actually use the technology that they consume. They just basically use the raw materials and the ships in order to fly around in. That does not seem logical to me. That does not seem like it would be a good use of their programming. Yeah, there's just a whole bunch of little things that I would change. The overall stories are great. The characterization is great. The storytelling elements are great. It's just a little tweaks here and there along the way that I would change. And there are things that can be changed when Stargate comes back. Since it's been, if it's taking place in real time, it's been several years since we last checked in with everybody. And so technology could change. I know the replicators aren't really a thing anymore, but you never know. Artificial life forms, artificial enemies can emerge and can use different strategies. There are still Goa'uld out there. That's another thing that bugs me. Not about the franchise, but about the fans. I love you guys. I really do. But there's this assumption out there that you kill off half a dozen system lords and all of the Goa'uld are suddenly extinct. And in Continuum, when they kill off Ball, they say, well, that's it. That's the last of the Goa'uld. No, it isn't. You did not kill every single Goa'uld in the galaxy. You may have taken apart the government. You may have taken apart the system lords. But there are still Goa'uld out there. Just like the Jaffa. You free the Jaffa, but the Jaffa are still out there. There's still a culture. There's still a civilization. But that's an assumption on the fans that I'm not really excited about. And that could be a whole nother video about how the majority of the fan base and I disagree. But just little things in the franchise, really. Atlantis, I think, did a very good job with keeping things consistent, apart from the Wraith thing, but they explain that. Universe was disappointing, not in that it's not a good show. It's a very good story, very good characterization. From a storytelling aspect, it was just great. But it was a 5-parter that we only got to see the first 2 parts of. We only got to see season 1 and 2, and it was meant for 5. And then it got canceled. So there's a whole bunch of things there that I would have changed if we knew that it was going to be 2 seasons. The ending, in my opinion, would be completely different. But, back to Atlantis. Vegas. This is something I'm going to get a little flack for. I would change the episode Vegas. Right before the very end in season 5, I would have just taken apart that episode. They knew that Stargate Atlantis was going to be canceled after 5 seasons. By the time that was about to be filmed, I think. I'm not exactly sure. But I think they would have known that the show was going to be canceled around that time period when they were about ready to shoot that. I would have scrapped the entire episode. And I would have extended the final 2-parter. I would have made that a 3-parter. Or at least have another episode that kind of builds up to that. I would just taken out Vegas. It does not... It helps broaden the overall universe of Stargate. But it's the opportunity cost. You've taken away the opportunity to really forward the Shepherd that we know. You take away the opportunity to really expand out the final ending, to really explain the wormhole drive, for crying out loud. That's another thing that kind of bothers me. The wormhole drive. That's just, yeah. And, I I get why people did what they did. I get why things were written the way that they were written and produced the way that they were produced. These are just little things that I would tweak and I would change. Um, Next month, what I would really like to talk about in the live stream is going forward. What I would like to see happen with Stargate in 2020, and what us as fans would love to have happen with the show and that kind of thing. But just looking back, there's a couple of things that I would change. Primarily, I would change the fact that I would be writing and producing for the show. But then I was kind of young, and I don't have the skills and abilities that I do now. Maybe that would be a going forward thing, is writing and producing for future Stargate. But I don't know. So anyway, let's go to the comment section, and let's go back a little bit. You guys have been commenting over there, which is fantastic. I love to see it. So let's go back and see what you guys have to say about this topic. What would you change about the Stargate franchise? Anything that you could change. Technology, cultures, races, anything. Oh, wait, I just remembered another one. Nicholas Ballard, Uncle Nick, and the giant aliens. I would have wanted to check in and see what was going on there. There was a bunch of dropped storylines, and I would have loved to check back in and at least have a one-off comment or something about what happened. Guys, those guys were firmly against the Goa'uld, but we never heard from them again. I would love to find out more about the Furlings, but and this is something that can be produced later on. We could come back and we can find out a lot more about the Furlings and the giant aliens, that kind of thing, when we get a continuation of the show. But let's go to the comment section and see what you guys have to say. What would you change about Stargate? Let me know right over there. Let's see here. A lot of guys I've seen before. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Matt Dean, I'd change that they canceled it. Yes, I agree. I would have changed that too. Yeah, or at least give them another season of Atlantis to really wrap things up. Another, one season of Universe. SG1, I don't remember exactly what the ratings were for the last two seasons without RDA. I don't know. Because there is a fact in... There's a fact in the entertainment world where things run its course. And, like, for example, with The Simpsons. The Simpsons have been on for a long freaking time. Decades. But there is a point of diminishing returns. As far as quality goes, as far as story structure goes, as far as acting goes, there's a time where people get tired. And people produce less and less good work. So although I really love Stargate, I'm wondering what the diminishing returns would be on continuing SG-1 as it was back then. Continuing it now would be different than not canceling it and have it keep going. Another 2, 5, 10 years, whatever it is. So I don't know about that, but Universe and Atlantis needed to continue. I think it had a lot more left in it. Mr. Bojangles, did you enjoy Thanksgiving, everyone? Yeah, I did. For those of you who are not familiar with Thanksgiving in the States, that's basically a day where we all sit around and we eat and share what we're grateful for, what we're thankful for, and we watch American football. I had a pretty good one. Went over to the coast, visited with my family. It was awesome. Silent Killer, don't get rid of the Zats. Yeah, I wouldn't get rid of him. I just want to change him, Zeke. I'd change who owns the rights to it. That would be a right now change. I don't know. This is something to really talk about in the next live stream in January. The first Sunday in January, around 10 or 11 o'clock a.m. Pacific time. I'll talk about my personal opinion about that kind of thing. But, I don't know. There's pros and cons. If you sell it to somebody, then there's no guarantee what they would do with it, how they would treat it. And, I personally, I wouldn't want some companies, some organizations to own Stargate. But I just don't think they would handle it right. But we'll talk about that next month. Bogo Muffin, hi, I'm finally here. Hey, welcome. Mr. Bojangles, mostly minor things really, but nothing is perfect. Yep, absolutely right. Juan Avalos, hi, I like your videos. It's cool. God bless you so much. Oh, thank you, Juan. I appreciate that. I'm glad you like the videos. The channel has grown a lot this year, and that's something I'm really thankful for and actually a little surprised by. But I'm self-deprecating, so I'm very glad that so many people like the channel and are supporting it. It is awesome. And I just made a little bonus video for the patrons. If you go to patreon.com/the Stargate Guide, link in the description box below. I just made a little bonus video for the First Prime folks and above. And their support is amazing. Right now, they just reached the first goal so that the monthly out-of-pocket expenses are now supported by the fans of the show, by the community. And it's amazing. It's major help, and it's just awesome. So thank you very much. I really enjoyed the story behind the Ashen race. I would have really loved to see more of them. Yeah, that would have been interesting. I would have loved to see... I would love to have them come back a little bit once they understood the Stargate and start sending their own people. I know they're not explorers, but start sending own probes or something. Rigoletto Regalato. I'm assuming you're Italian and probably Spanish. Quick possible theory: could the Nox have saved the Asgard, or did they? Or didn't they instead of their mass suicide? I don't know. The Nox have restorative abilities. They're able to heal things. So with the Asgard, with the cloning, and this is completely off topic, and I'm sorry guys, but this is what happens during live stream. We get off topic sometimes. With the Asgard, it wasn't so much restoring to their bodies. It was getting rid of that genetic degradation. So I don't know if the Nox, with their own innate abilities, they might have helped develop a technology that would have helped. It's possible. But I think that if the Asgard... I think the Asgard would have at least talked to them and asked them, because they used to be allies a long time ago. They still might be. We don't know what the relationship is today. But I think that they would have reached out and at least run it by them and get the Nox's opinion about what they should do. So Shadow's Edge, I would pick up SGU where it left off. I agree. It needed some more time to really develop. Anders Hold, I would have made 2 more seasons of Atlantis instead of making Universe. Yeah, that's it. I agree that extending Atlantis would be a good change. Not making Universe, I don't know. That's a really polarizing thing, because some people absolutely love Universe, others absolutely hate Universe. I'm kind of in the middle. I really like the concept of Universe. When I first watched it, I didn't like it because it was such a different tone. Going back and appreciating it later, and especially now that I'm more of an adult, I like Universe a lot more. So just making that change of not producing Universe and extending Atlantis, it would have been a safer bet. I agree with you. It would have been a safer bet. They would have made some more money. The fan base would not have become polarized as much as it did when Universe came out. But yeah, that's an interesting little change. What you would do, Anders. Marchin 1998 to 108. If Zats are so powerful, you can just scale it up and use it as a weapon on your mothership, right? Like, the logic is there. Yeah, so it's just, the Zats are weird. Light Shadow, I thought they switched up the MO they were using. Yeah, and he's referring to the Jaffa armor. You know, it was hard to kill them at the very beginning. That was a lot easier. It could be they could have gone to full metal jackets or more penetration rounds. It is possible, but I would assume that those would be in the weapons anyway. especially since the Jaffa came into Stargate Command, kicked butt, grabbed someone, and left in the very, very first episode. I think that, if they were going to, they had security cam footage and stuff, so they would be able to really bump up the type of ammunition they use when going off road to face these guys. But, I don't know. Mr. Bojangles, I would enjoy a winter episode, an episode with skiing, like in the opening of The Spy Who Loved Me. Minor things like that to mix things up. Yeah, it actually would be nice to kind of have, a couple of winter episodes, a couple of kind of Christmassy episodes, if you will. Yeah, actually, that'd be a good little thing to have, or at least things that took place more in the snow. I mean, you're filming in Vancouver, for crying out loud. They have snow up there. And although they did that a little bit in Universe, they went to Hoth. Yeah, having some more kind of winter episodes would have been interesting. And you can have, Jack skating on his pond or something, because it freezes in Minnesota. I mean, come on. Shadow's Edge, I would make a spoof episode of where all the bad guys would accidentally sneeze and kill several of their warriors. What? And Laura, hell yeah, man, keep them coming, and we will be watching. And on that note, let's call it a day. Let's call it a live stream. I got plenty of videos I need to make for you guys coming out in December. So guys, thank you very much for attending the live stream. I hope this was fun for you. It was great for me. I love doing these things. First Sunday of the month, 10 or 11 o'clock Pacific time in the U.S. So check back with me in January, where we will talk about the future of Stargate, or the possible future of Stargate, and what can happen in 2020. In the meantime, thank you very much to all the patrons who make these videos and this channel possible. You can go to patreon.com/The Stargate Guy and become a patron and get some cool rewards, some cool bonuses, some bonus videos, private chat with me, all kinds of things. Patreon.com/The Stargate Guy. Link in the description box down below. And until next time, I'll see you on the other side.